Hey everyone, I wanted to speak now about 1 Corinthians chapter 13 and the spiritual gifts. This is because during my time associating with Jehovah's Witnesses, whereby I almost got baptized, I was being taught that the spiritual gifts had actually ceased. That they did used to exist during the time of the apostles, but no longer. However, I really wanted to go back and unravel this, because First Corinthians chapter 13, which is one that they use to say that these gifts have ceased, is the one that needs to be looked at. And they actually use 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 8 to 13. Or 12, actually. They say, love never ends, but as for prophecies, they will come to an end. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will come to an end. For we know only in part, and we prophesy only in part. But when the complete comes, the partial will come to an end. When I was a child, I spoke like a child, I thought like a child, I reasoned like a child. When I became an adult, I put an end to childish ways. For now we see in a mirror dimly, but then we will see face to face. Now I only know in part, then I will know fully, even as I have been fully known. So the Jehovah's Witnesses will use that to say that these gifts all did come to an end. Because they believe that they now have accurate knowledge, so they don't need prophecies, tongues, healings, any of those things. But let's look at it really in context. If we go back to verse 1 of chapter 13, you'll see that there is a lot of metaphorical and figurative language used in this passage, and throughout the Bible. So you cannot take it as actually completely literal. Think about it. From verse 1, it says, if I speak in the tongues of mortals and of angels, but do not have love, I am a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal. Well, are you going to be a noisy gong or a clanging cymbal? No, you're a human being. But it's a metaphor, okay? So it's just saying that if you speak in human language and then you speak in angelic language, but you don't love anyone, it doesn't mean anything to anyone. And then it says, and if I have prophetic powers and understand all mysteries and all knowledge, and if I have all faith so as to remove mountains, but do not have love, I am nothing. Now, do you have faith that you can literally pick up a mountain and move it, a physical mountain? No, it's another metaphor. If I give away all my possessions, and if I hand over my body so that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. So we're really talking about the gift of love and how important it is in comparison to all the other things that God could give you. Now it says in verse 4, love is patient, love is kind, love is not envious or boastful or arrogant or rude. It does not insist on its own way. It is not irritable or resentful. These things are literal because love doesn't let you do those things. It does not rejoice in wrongdoing, but rejoices in the truth. It bears all things, believes all things, hopes all things, and endures all things. And it says love never ends, because something, if you ever look back through the Bible, you always see that God is love. So love is infinite. Love will never, ever end. But it says, as for prophecies, they will come to an end. It doesn't say they have come to an end. It says they will come to an end. Now, that could be metaphorical. It's for us to think about. As for tongues, they will cease. As for knowledge, it will come to an end. So you can think about these things, because these things won't be needed. If we don't have love, we wouldn't what would be the point of having a prophecy if there's no love involved, or knowledge, or any of those things? And God can take anything away from us. He could even take love away, but he won't take love away, because God is love. For we know only in part, and we prophesy only in part. But when the complete comes, the partial will come to an end. Now, I personally would think about perhaps when you go to heaven, that's something that's complete, because you've now taken on your everlasting life. Do you need another prophecy? Because you're already there. But that's something to think about. Those are only my thoughts. But then it says, when I was a child, I spoke like a child, I thought like a child, and I reasoned like a child. When I became an adult, I put an end to childish ways. So this is again talking about the gift of love. So we'll stop being childish when we start loving one another. It doesn't mean to say having spiritual gifts is childish. It was just saying to grow up and start loving one another. And it says, for now we see in a mirror dimly. And there's a footnote here in the NRSV that I'm quoting from. And it says, instead of dimly, it could say in a riddle. For we see in a mirror in a riddle. So we're having to work it all out. But then we will see face to face. Now I know only in part. Then I will know fully, even as I have been fully known. And now faith, hope, and love abide, these three, and the greatest of these is love. So really this passage is really comparing love to everything else, because it is the most important thing. But it isn't saying that prophecies, tongues, knowledge are or have already come to an end. It just says these things will come to an end, but love never ends in comparison. Thinking about the way in which this whole passage is written, could you really say that everything in this passage is going to be completely literal? I don't think I'm going to be a clanging cymbal, or a noisy gong, but I could be compared to one if I didn't have love. And those are my thoughts on cessationism and the gifts of the Holy Spirit. To say that the gifts of healing have gone is like telling God that he's not going to gift us anymore. There's no need for it. Well, we just need to think about that, and I'll leave you to leave some comments below. Thank you.